I'm Tim, and welcome to Watch You On. Thanks for logging on. Today, we're looking at a classic from 2008 and an all-time great in the Panerai catalog. This is the Radiomir Titanium PAM 322. This is a special reference on many levels, but it's really what's inside that counts, and what counts most is the Panerai caliber OP27, better known as the Minerva 1617. Now, Minerva is a small manufacturer of Villeray, best known these days as part of Manufacture Mont Blanc. The bottom line is that it's probably the most impressive high horology house most people, even dedicated watch fans, have never heard of. Now, if you've heard of Minerva, you don't need my introduction. You already know what they're about. But if you're curious about how they came to be a supplier to Panerai, how they came to be part of the Richemont Empire, and what they bring to this PAM 322, let's talk a little bit about how Minerva does things, and specifically, let's talk about this Minerva movement right here in the PAM 322. First and foremost, you're talking about a huge movement. Now, this is what's known as 16 3/4 French lean, which is about 38 millimeters. For a vintage movement built on an architecture that predates even my birth by decades, that's huge. This is a pocket watch style movement in essentially the image of the original Panerai combat diver movements, historically powered by Angelus and Rolex Codebert pocket watch movements. Panerai, as a combat-issue dive watch for the Italian Navy and Allied forces from the 30s through the late 50s, was essentially dependent on huge pocket watch movements to fill its gigantic cases. And the bottom line is the Minerva carries on in that tradition, but it's the traditions of the manufacturer itself that make this watch special. Minerva is a manufacturer vertically integrated in the strictest sense. Now, in their Villeray workshops, which all fit in one building, they turn out hundreds, not thousands, not tens of thousands of movements per year. Hundreds. Most of those go to Mont Blanc, its nominal owner within the Richemont group, and very, very few make their way to friendly brands, that is, other Richemont houses. Panerai managed to get 150 for this series of 150 Radiomir Titanium PAM 322s. They are as scarce as hen's teeth in a rooster, so I can't overemphasize just what you're getting and why that scarcity is significant. First and foremost, let's talk about traditional finish. You see the Geneva stripes. You can see those on the bridges. You can see that the bridges have been partly skeletonized to reveal the beautifully beveled and circular grained wheels of the going train. This is a case study in basic watchmaking. Everything from the crown wheel to the ratchet wheel to the center, third, fourth, and escapement wheels, and that giant balance, which takes up almost a third of the width of the movement. This is classical watchmaking at its best. It's a big, slow, 2.5 hertz movement beating at 18,000 vibrations per hour. It has a slow, lazy, endearing heartbeat to it when you hold it up against your ear, and when you look at it, especially when you look at it under the loupe, even down to 20 power, you realize what makes Minerva special. There's a beautiful black polished swan's neck regulator, the most traditional form of regulating organ in high horology, not just executed in gorgeous fashion, but finished to a degree that you would expect of a Vacheron, a Patek Philippe, a Longa. This is a truly special, heartwarming visage for any fan of high horology, whether you're Paneristi or not. Or if you're Paneristi, maybe this is your gateway into the world of high horology. And if you're a fan of that world, maybe this is your gateway into the house of Panerai. Either way, it's a beautiful junction of two great histories, manufacturer Minerva and Panerai in one watch, with a 55-hour power reserve, that endearing big, slow, lazy heartbeat, the huge surface area to admire, and the micro level of finish, all of which is mirrored on the angles. The anglage is mirrored, the black polish is something to behold, so flat, so finely polished, it only reflects light in one direction. That's your screw heads, that's your swan's neck, your regulating organs. It looks black until you turn it precisely at your eye. From every other angle, it looks black. When you turn it directly at your eye, it's blinding. The perlage is tight and even on the base plate, and because the movement is so broad and open, the channels between the bridges are so wide, you get a fantastic view of that finished base plate. There's a lot of color going on here, from the blue-inked engravings of the graphics to the violet inset jewels, and all of the partridge eye recesses for the screws and the jewels are themselves mirror polished. Beautiful radial dressage graining on the wheels over here, the wheels of the winding system. This is a watch that rewards repeat viewing, basically, every time you look at this, even after owning it for years, you're going to notice something new. It's that rewarding, that engrossing, there's that much depth to it, and all that in spite of the basic simplicity of the movement. The added value, the complexity, the engrossing factor, that's what Minerva brings to the table, and that's why this watch is so special. But Panerai adds some important elements of its own. Now, the Radiomir case is classic, dating back to 1936. This was basically the image of the Rolex Oyster pocket watch, turned on its side with soldered-on lugs and originally calfskin straps. Now, this one breaks with that tradition a little bit. Although it's in the image of the original 3646 combat watch, it adds an aesthetic that's upscale, contemporary, a fitting tempo for that Minerva 1617 movement. First and foremost, you can see the strap's a little different. Black alligator, not calf. That's your first cue that this watch is more than a little bit special. With its even contrasting white stitch, it leads you into a gorgeous brushed titanium case. Now, this case, you can see, 47 millimeters, sits very evenly on my wrist, very flat, and it's got a formal sobriety to it that makes it almost a tailor-made dress option if you're looking for a Panerai that can also pull off a suit. I find most of them are more versatile than people suspect, but this one in particular is refined. And that refinement continues beyond the brushed case and the polished titanium bezel within the dial, which is the famed Panerai sandwich dial, a stenciled index and Arabic numeral setup on top of a fully loomed base disc. Back in the day, that was designed to prevent the hands from striking the very thick luminescent applications of paint. Today, it adds depth and visual interest, a three-dimensional effect to the dials. But Panerai goes distinctly upscale here, using the rarely seen titanium and tobacco dial combination. This is a chocolate tobacco-colored dial. It's somewhere between a reddish brown and a black. It's matte in color. It's very elegant, very refined, and beautifully paired with these rose gold hands. Hours, minutes, and small seconds, all rose gold. And here's the wrinkle. There's a small rehot, this little chapter ring encircling the dial. It's knurled, and it's made out of red gold to match the hands. It's a beautiful detail, and it's the kind of thing you could miss at first glance. If you're watching on the internet, I'd say turn it up to 1080p if you haven't already, because this is a subtle detail that's easily overlooked when not examining the watch in the hand, but it adds richness to the dial. It's just one of those signs, just like the Minerva movement itself, that something that's fundamentally simple, the essential Radiomir look, has been complicated with detailing. Gorgeous, loving detailing. Something that adds an element of thought, something that adds an element of heart, something that really enlivens the total and lets you know you're holding something that's more than a little bit special. Now, this watch is available with full boxes and papers from Watch You Want. Like I said, it has 100-meter water resistance, so if you were to throw a rubber strap on here, you'd be good to go and wear this watch not just with a suit, but a bathing suit. It's very versatile. I wouldn't necessarily go, ice spelunking with it, because that movement in there, while it is shock protected, is a true veteran, and I wouldn't want to abuse it. Not something this gorgeous. But this watch is designed to be worn and used like a conventional Panerai, not some sort of cloistered vintage piece. This one's designed to be worn. Check it out on our website with full boxes, papers, documents of provenance, including the original Panerai 2008 Special Series Certificate, one of only 150. These don't come along too often. And with Minerva Villeray increasingly harnessed by its owner Mont Blanc, rarely turning out movements for other houses within Richemont, you're not likely to see its like again. See it on our website, Watch You Want.